The movie They Live has been referred to as a documentary, not just by conspiracy theorists, but by the director John Carpenter himself, as well as Roddy Piper, the man who plays John Nada, the lead in the movie. But what exactly is the documentary aspect of this movie? Are there real parasites out there controlling our world and housing us in a prison of a soul trap? Well, yes and no. On my channel, I decode movies, TV shows, and real life to show you the hidden one story that lies beneath all of it. There is only one story. It's a separation and reunification of the divine masculine and feminine, which leads back to true love. They Live was based on a comic called 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson, written in 1963. This comic reveals that there's a hidden world beneath the surface that is secretly run by aliens. The character is George Nada, and he attends a stage hypnotist show. But instead of falling into a trance, he wakes up. He suddenly sees the truth that the world is secretly controlled by alien reptilian-like creatures who are called fascinators. They disguise themselves as humans. In this hidden world, these creatures control humanity through mass hypnosis, broadcasting through media, advertising, and authority these subliminal messages commanding people to obey, consume, conform, etc. After waking up, Nada realizes that he only has until 8 o'clock in the morning before his heart gives out, which was part of the hypnotic suggestion, so he has to take action before then. He tries to warn others, but mostly others are too deeply entranced to want to care or listen or even understand what he's talking about. Even when he shows them, they can't or won't see because the spell is that strong. Eventually, he takes violent action against the fascinators and the humans that are collaborating with them. But ultimately, he goes to a TV station where the aliens broadcast a subliminal hypnotic message to the public. Nada destroys the transmitter that projects their hypnotic signal. The violent rupture causes humanity to begin to wake up, although it is implied that most will still resist or be terrified by the truth. And in the end, just before 8 a.m., Nada dies, but not before disrupting the alien control system enough that others start to wake up. Why do conspiracy theorists believe They Live is a documentary? So both John Carpenter, the director, and Roddy Piper, the actor playing John Nada in They Live, said this movie was a documentary. Similarly, Keanu Reeves said that The Matrix was a documentary, and they're not wrong. However, the interpretation is askew.
It was a movie I made towards the end of the 80s, and I was reflecting on a lot of the values that I saw around me at the time, mainly inspired by Ronald Reagan's conservative revolution. There was a great deal of obsession with greed and making a lot of money, and some of the values that I grew up with had been pushed aside. So I decided to scream out in the middle of the night and make a statement about that. And They Live is partially a political statement. It's partially a tract on the world that we live in today. And as a matter of fact, right now, it's even more true than it was then. We are manipulated by a lot of media around us. We are consumed by consumerism. And as you can see, the recent events in this country, they are still among us. They do live, indeed.
John Carpenter said that They Live was about Republicans being the invasive entity harvesting our energy, keeping us trapped in a cycle of soul-destroying consumerism. He wrote the film during the Reagan era in the 80s at the peak of consumerism in the United States. But I think he only said this because it was what would be palatable for the public. The invasive entity is not just Republicans, it's way too simple. And he knows it. Even in the film, which Carpenter claims is a documentary about Republicans, he showed these dead entities as represented by the elite controlling the broadcasting system or the media, something of which he was a part. Carpenter himself was making Hollywood films, which is controlled by the elite. So of course he can't say that the elite in our reality are these dead entities. The film never would have been released. This is not a documentary if it's about Republicans. So if it's a documentary, which it is, then what exactly is it documenting? The Matrix 2 being called a documentary is not to be taken literally. We do not live in a world literally using humans as batteries run by alien machines, yet we kind of do. You could even add films like Dark City and Free Guy into this mix. Conspiracy circles love to refer to these films as literal examples of our reality, which paints our world as being a prison in which we are held hostage by alien beings who are harvesting our energy. This story is based on the Gnostic scriptures of the Nag Hammadi. Everything in this world is based off of this story because it's the only story there is. This is why they live The Matrix, Dark City, Free Guy, and every other movie ever made is a documentary. However, this explanation is only partially true. In the Gnostic texts of the Nag Hammadi, the material world is described as a false creation, a kind of mirror copy of the true divine realm. It came into being when Sophia, the divine feminine, acted alone and birthed an ignorant being called Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, also known as the God of the Bible or the ego. And he believed himself to be the only God. He fashioned the archons, which are the 7 chakras or the 7 planets, shadowy rulers who maintain his counterfeit cosmos and keep humanity trapped in forgetfulness through fear and deception. But within every human lies a divine spark from the true source. The way out of this illusion isn't through fighting the archons, but through gnosis, knowledge, inner knowing of who we truly are, which dissolves their power and awakens us to our home in divine love. This is literally the only story there is, and it's playing out on the world stage, and it's playing out in your own life. That is why this movie is a documentary. The reason our world is like this is because we are like this. So how did we become like this? Because we fell in consciousness. We forgot who we really are. We wanted to become human. This is shown very well in the movie The Nines. We believe that the physical reality is all there is. Therefore, we externalize our power. And that is how the archons exist. In the movie They Live, John Nada finds sunglasses that give him the ability to see what is hidden beneath the surface of reality, much like Guy in Free Guy. When Nada sees past the facade of all the advertising billboards, posters, magazines, John sees what these messages are really trying to do: control our minds into believing the physical is real, using subliminal messages like obey, consume, conform. If we get into conspiracy circles and we start to see the truth, we start to see these messages because the veil starts to fall. We have put on the glasses. But what we're actually seeing is merely the opposing layer to a dualistic illusion. If you want the real truth, you have to see the source code, and you get to that by decoding. Once Nada finds these glasses, he tries to wake his friend up, but he doesn't want to know. And this is the same scene that takes place in Free Guy when Guy tries to put the glasses on his friend. And the fight demonstrates how hard it is to wake people up to the truth of this reality because the illusion is so convincing. People are hypnotized by the reality of the 3D in believing that it's real. What Nada also sees with these glasses is that some people are like zombies or dead entities who can tell that he can see, and when this happens, they attack him. These dead entities are shown in the film to be members of the elite or in power positions in society that control everything: corporations, advertising, and especially media.
Look at them, they're everywhere!
I don't know. Maybe they can see Valley 5th and Spring.
Now hold on. You ain't the first son of a bitch to wake up out of their dream.
You'll notice that these dead entities use their watches to communicate because they report to the timekeeper, which is the demiurge or Saturn, Kronos. Time creates the illusion of separation, physicality, space, and the 3D. But none of it is actually real. It's merely a mind creation, a dream. So these entities are controlling you through the concept of time by maintaining the illusion that fear is real, that the 3D is real, and that time and space are real. They need to maintain the illusion to stay in control, but also to survive. If they are discovered, their power is gone and they cease to exist. Now, part of the conspiracy circle is David Icke. David Icke talks about these reptilian beings as being dead entities that feed off of our energy, primarily fear.
This is what these scrolls and this find at Nag Hammadi said. 1/5 of the texts, and there were lots of them, were about a force they called the archons, which they say created our physical universe, and they equated them with the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God. And when you see the Old Testament kill 'em and flog 'em and all that stuff God, it fits precisely with the descriptions of the archons by the Gnostics. So what they say in these writings, in these texts, is that, well, first of all, archon means prince, ruler, authorities, or from the beginning. That's why they use the word archon. They said that the archons and the Lord Archon, which they called the demiurge, was a fake god that created our physical or material reality as we perceive it. The Gnostics related the demiurge, like I say, to the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God, and they are inorganic, not resulting from or produced by growth. They are artificial. And they say in these texts that they created the inorganic parts of the solar system, but that the sun, the moon, and the earth were a system that were of itself and different from the rest, which was kind of interesting with what will come later. They said that the demiurge archons had no creative imagination and envy humans because we have. They're like cyborgs. Again, we're coming back to the inorganic. Like cyborgs, a robotic race that can imitate but not innovate. And the word they used was counter-mimicry. Now, what they were saying, in effect, is if you gave these archons a blank sheet of paper, they could create nothing on it. They don't have that creative imagination, that what was called intentionality. But you give them something with a piece of paper with something on it, and they can twist it and manipulate it once it exists. And they used the term fantasia, because these entities, they said, just as the Islamic people say about the jinn, have the ability to create virtual reality illusions. They're mind parasites. They possess humanity and manipulate the way they perceive everything. And they say the word you could use more than any about the archons was deception. They are deceivers. And what they create is an inversion of the natural order.
Notice the many references to the mind parasites, fantasia, which is illusion, deception, which is a lie, inversion, which is a mirror, because all of this, the inverted reflection, the deception, the control, the fear, the dead entities, it's all just an illusion created in your own mind, manifested in your reality. By keeping us in perpetual fear, they can control us, keep us down, and prevent us from seeing the true nature of reality. It's actually a perfect design except for one flaw. The fear is so obvious that eventually it wakes us up. And that is the point. The point is not to stay asleep. The point is to use this reality to wake us up. It's built in. The Gnostics, like Icke, said our reality is run by archons. But the archons are the physical form of the embodiment of our chakras. They keep us focused on the physical reality as if it's real, distracting us with what I call the 911 trauma center. The fear program is played out all around us with sirens, alarms, bad news, trauma in film and TV, and we even play it out in our own lives. Every single one of us has been traumatized by the 911 trauma center. So in this sense, the story is a documentary, but there's a deeper truth to this that conspiracy circles miss, and that truth is what sets you free. How is this true of our reality? What you perceive to be reality is not the true reality. We live in a reflection or a mirror world of our true reality. You can see this in two ways, that the external 3D world is an illusion and an inversion of a true, real, physical 3D world, and that the world in which we perceive to be 3D is actually nothing more than a dream. It's all happening within you. The world out there is a reflection of your inner world, but we are inside of a construct that projects fear because we came here to experience a reality without true love, hence the 911 Trauma Center. It's a dream within a dream, much like Inception. This is too much for me to go into in a single video, but if you want to know more, watch more of my videos, or to really understand the true nature of our reality and to set yourself free, join my Labyrinth on my website, truelove.com. In Gnosticism, archons are the rulers or principalities responsible for creating and governing the material world, often seen as malevolent or semi-hostile powers. While their number varies, they are most commonly depicted as 7 demonic beings associated with the planets and astrology. They're not demonic, but the reason that Gnosticism paints them as demonic is because this world is an illusion and it's an inversion, and we have to get back to the true reality. And so it is perceived as demonic. It is perceived as controlling. That's all it is a perception. These beings trap the divine spark within human souls in the material cosmos, acting as jailers and the first obstacle for the soul to overcome on its journey back to the spiritual realm. So the archons are the 7 chakras. These chakras are also the planets. We are ruled by this infrastructure we call astrology, or what I call the tarot play, in which we all play a part. It's not evil, it's not a prison unless you make it one. It is the framework that creates the story we are in.
I've got one that can see.
When we awaken to the truth of this reality, we first encounter the fear. We put on the sunglasses and notice that reality isn't what we were told it was, and we get scared. We were lied to. Where are we? Who runs this place? What's going on? Who can I trust? Being in fear creates fearful experiences because you are creating your own reality. And now that you see beneath the first layer to the mind control, it's easy to believe that this is the truth, but it's not. It's only one layer of it. You have to dig deeper. So by demonizing what we perceive to be evil archons or controllers or elite or whatever you want to call them, you feed them more energy because you believe in them and you believe in the power they hold over you. So awakening from the 911 Trauma Center into the hidden layer of more fear is simply a double trap. It's sending you from one set of lies to another. All you've done is swung the pendulum. You're still within the trauma center. All you did was go from red to blue. So why does this happen? Because you still believe the physical reality is all there is. And the physical reality is duality. You see the lies and you believe that someone out there lied to you. But the truth is, you lied to yourself. And you lied to yourself so you could have this experience as a mortal, as a human being, because that's not who you really are. We experience the system fighting back once we start to awaken because we designed it that way. Fear by its very nature is designed to fight back. It fights to survive. It uses fear to survive. The ego does this. Fear is an illusion, and so are the dead entities. They aren't real. We believe they're attacking us when it's really only our own fears projected outward, feeding us lies to keep us in the human illusion. So how do you get out? Well, the only way out is to return to your own power in remembering who you really are. You are not human, you are God. You created your own reality. Once you prove this to yourself, once you dismantle the illusion by disrupting the broadcast that comes from the infrastructure of fear run by the demiurge, you restore your power and you return home. This is a return to true love. I talk about this in depth in other videos and in the Labyrinth if you're interested in getting out of the 911 Trauma Center yourself. By decoding film and television, I have proven that we are playing a unique role in the divine tarot play of life, and that there is truly only one story hidden beneath all stories. That story is the story of separation and reunification of the feminine and masculine, or man from God. When you see life from this perspective, the fear dissolves, you return to true love, and you live your happily ever after. Because the truth is, life is a fairy tale.